We're going to start a new chapter. And to begin this new chapter, we're going to look at just the perimeter of shapes. This slide says perimeter and area, but we're going to do area tomorrow. So this is like the first half of the lesson. So at the top of your notes, first we're going to talk about just what a perimeter is. The perimeter is the distance around an object. So that means if someday you buy a house, and you decide that you want to put a fence in, here's your house, and you want to put a fence in your backyard to keep in your animals or to keep your children from running out into the street. The perimeter would be the whole distance around the yard, as I'm outlining in black here, so that you could see how many footage of fence that you would need for your house. So it's the distance around an object. And to figure out the perimeter, all we have to do is add up all the sides. So it is the sum of the lengths of the sides. Now, that is the simplistic way to do it, and you've probably done this before. We're going to actually go and look at some formulas that we use, some equations that we use that's going to be more useful in higher math. So, basically said, we look at these shapes down there, and this is not on your notes, but we look really quick. If you look at shape A, and you look at the base, and if you were to count the units, there are 5 units on the base, which means there's also 5 units on the top base. There are 3 units on each side, so you would simply add 3 plus 5 plus 3 plus 5. That is one way to do it, and that gets 16 units. On figure B, if you look again, we've got the base, and it has 2 units on top, 2 on bottom. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units on the side. And we would add 6 plus 2 plus 6 plus 2, and that would result in 16 units. For shape C, which is a square, and the definition of a square is that all the sides are the same. So if the top base is 3, they're all going to be 3. And you could go 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, which of course is 12. On the triangle down here, we have a base of 4 right here. Boom, if I can write on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, and a height of 3. And I gave the hypotenuse, which is 5. So if you add 3 plus 5 plus 4, that would result in a perimeter of 12 units. That's the basic premise of perimeter. Now we're going to look at some equations that we can use that's going to be useful in higher level math. Up here we have a rectangle, and you'll see that the base is 12. If the top base is 12, we know that also the bottom base is 12. So you could go 12 plus 12. But since we are adding the same number twice, we could do 2 times the base, which is called 2b. 2 times the base. And since the height is 5 on both sides, we could say we're going to add to that 2 of the heights. So here's the equation. Now look at your notes. Here on the left side of the box, we're going to write the equation that we use for perimeter for a rectangle. P, which stands for perimeter, equals 2 times the base plus 2 times the height. That would be the same thing as going 12 plus 12, 12 plus 12, and 5 plus 5. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to plug in the numbers to the equation. So here on the right side of your box, perimeter equals 2 times the base. We know the base is 12, so we're going to plug in 12 to base. We know we have 2 sides, which are 5, so we're going to plug 5 into the height. Then we use our order of operations and do our multiplication first. So that would be 24 plus 10. So the perimeter would be 34. Look back to see how it's labeled, centimeters. So we're going to label it centimeters. Final answer. So today when we solve these problems, I want you to get used to these equations. And instead of just adding all 4 sides, you need to get comfortable plugging in numbers. And you'll see why here in just a few minutes as we get to something a little different. Next, we're going to go to the triangle. Now, if you have this kind of triangle where all 3 sides are different, then the only way you can find the perimeter of this type of triangle is just to add the 3 sides together. Nothing fancy, just side A plus side B plus side B. It doesn't matter which one's A, B, or C. So when we solve it, we just plug in the numbers, 10 plus 6 plus 8. You simply add them together, and that would be 24 centimeters. Now again, this equation is going to be helpful here in a little bit when we have to find a missing side. So you need to at least be familiar with that equation. Alrighty. We're going to go on to the square. Now, what do we know about a square? We know the square has 4 equal sides. So we could add 10 plus 10 plus 10, which is very easy to do mentally. It's not always going to be mentally easy because we're going to have decimals and fractions and such. But since all sides are the same, all we have to do is take the side and multiply it times 4 because we have it 4 times. So the equation we use for a square is perimeter equals 4 times the side. So of course, if we plug that in, perimeter equals 4 times 10. And yes, I know you can do this mentally, but write out the steps because we're going to have numbers that are not easily mentally to do. 40 centimeters again. All right, so these are the basic equations. Now I'm going to show you how we're going to use them in something that's a step up, a baby step up from that. In this rectangle, you are given the perimeter. We know what the entire length is, which is 40 meters right here. Oh, nice work. We know the base, but the height we do not know. So think back to our equation right here that we had for a rectangle. We know the perimeter. So it's 40. So in place of P, we're going to put 40. 2 times the base. We know the base is 12, so we can write 2 and plug in 12 to base, plus 2 times the height, but we don't know the height. So this is where our variable is that we are solving for. So we plugged the numbers that we know into the equation. So if we solve this, first we do our multiplication. 2 times 12 is 24, plus 2h. Two-step equation. The 24 bounces the fence first, so it comes over here. When you subtract, you get 16 equals 2h. And of course, 16 divided by 2 would be 8. So the missing side is 8 meters. Does that check out? Well, 2 times 24, 2 times 12 right here would be 24. And 2 times 8 is 16. And if you add those together, you indeed get 40. So this is how we use the equation to figure out a missing side. That's why this equation was important. Okay, let's look at the same thing for the perimeter of a triangle, but you're looking for a missing side. Remember, our equation was perimeter equals side A plus side B plus side C. We know the perimeter, which we're going to plug into P. We know 2 sides that we can plug into 2 of the variables. So our perimeter was 86. One of the sides was 22. One of the sides was 31. And then we had a missing side. So to follow our order of operations in our two-step equations, first we would add our like terms over here on the right side. And 22 plus 31 is 53. We want the x by itself, so the 53 is going to jump the fence and become a negative. So now we know that the missing side is 33. Now, does that work out? Does 33 plus 31 and 22 equal 86? Let's see. 33 what? We got to label it. I'm rambling now. I'm sorry. 33 inches. So if we were to check it, you could go back and add those 3 sides together and see if you got 86. All right, that concludes the perimeter part of the lesson. And tomorrow we're going to look at area. So on your paper today, write out the equations, show your work, and you've got this.